Hi everyone, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be talking about your critical thinking assignment. So we're going to discuss what critical thinking is, the basics of this assignment, and then how this assignment is going to be graded. So stay with me and we will go over each of these steps in detail. The definition of critical thinking is a habit characterized by the comprehensive exploration of issues, ideas, artifacts, and events before accepting or formulating an opinion or conclusion. In essence, this exercise asks you to become an independent thinker and to question what you see. Ask yourself what evidence is there that leads you to this conclusion. State that evidence. Question your own assumptions about what you see, and then decide what conclusion you then reach. In the critical thinking assignment, I have provided some images that you might want to discuss. You also have the option to choose an image that is not uploaded in the critical thinking assignment. However, this image has to be an artwork. It can be any type of artwork, whether it be a painting, a photograph, an installation. But your artwork has to examine a complex issue that doesn't have one perspective. By this I mean that your issue can be looked at from different viewpoints and that there is no definite right way to approach this subject. The works that I've presented address issues that are being discussed in contemporary society. Many people have different viewpoints about how to approach these issues and to solve these problems in our modern society. And the first of those is Faith Ringgold's American People series, number 20. The second is by Cindy Sherman, and it is one of her untitled film stills. This is number 35. And then we have an installation artwork called Plastic Oceans that was recently exhibited at the Singapore Art Museum. And finally, we have an image by Sandy Rodriguez, who creates paintings and mixed media artworks that discuss relevant subjects. And this one is called You Will Not Be Forgotten, Mappa for the Children Killed in Custody of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. And this one was created in 2019. So remember to look at when the artwork was created, where it was shown, a little bit about the artist's biography so you can understand where they might be coming from. And then you are going to have to write about this artwork. So now let's get back to the actual assignments. In this assignment, you're asked to write 250 words, and this can be, again, in a Word doc, or you can just type the text into Canvas. And here you will need to explicitly explain the issue that appears to be presented by the work of art. You also need to define this issue and then state the visual evidence that makes you draw this conclusion. This means describing an aspect of the work that explicitly seems to lead you to conclude that this is the issue that is being presented in this artwork. Then you have to question the viewpoint that is presented. Is the person coming from a specific point of view? Are they only approaching the issue from one perspective? Consider your own assumptions on this issue. And then finally, what conclusion can you reach? Did this artist address this issue from all sides, or are they only showing one specific point of view? And what might that point of view be? Now let's look at what a successful submission might resemble. Here I discuss Natalia Rack's 2013 mural, The Legend of Giants. So first I will read you the initial paragraph. Natalia Rack's 2013 mural, The Legend of Giants, illustrates the importance of environmental responsibility. Environmental responsibility refers to one's personal duty to protect the earth. The artist visually communicates this issue by painting a child in traditional garb watering the earth. The child is a symbol of future generations. Her costume is a symbol of past generations. Together, these artistic choices illustrate the importance of today's citizens taking care of the environment for generations to come. The artist's depiction of a child rendered on a monumental scale, engaging in a small action, demonstrates that small actions can create large changes. Rack presents a global issue with one local example. It would be seemingly impossible for the artist to consider all aspects of environmental responsibility in one image. However, Rack successfully depicts this subject from her cultural perspective, while at the same time her incorporation of symbols makes her underlying message universally relatable. So now let's look at what I've done here. In the first sentence, I introduced the artist, the time it was created, what type of artwork it was, the title of the artwork, and then the issue that this artwork addresses. In this case, it's environmental responsibility. Then I go on to define the issue and state environmental responsibility refers to one's personal duty to protect the earth. So remember, always define your terms. Now I look at the visual evidence that led me to the conclusion that this artwork discusses environmental responsibility. The artist visually communicates this issue by painting a child in traditional garb watering the earth. The child is a symbol of future generations. Her costume is a symbol of past generations. Together, these artistic choices illustrate the importance of today's citizens taking care of the environment for generations to come. And then I elaborate on the artist's choices and what they might mean. The artist's depiction of a child rendered on a monumental scale. So here I'm looking at her formal choices, right? The use of scale. Engaging in a small action, in this case, watering a plant, demonstrates that small actions can create large changes. Then I consider from what perspective she is addressing this issue. So I say, however, Rack successfully depicts the subject from her cultural perspective. So Natalia Rack is a Polish citizen, and this young child is in traditional Polish clothing, and this mural is in a Polish city. So she is approaching this issue from something that she is aware of, right? She is aware of Polish cultural heritage. However, she uses the symbol of a child, and this symbol can represent future generations, innocence. A child can only take on so much responsibility, right? They usually can only have a few minor chores, and they're still able to contribute. In this case, the child is watering a plant. However, the scale, so this child is rendered 3 stories high, shows that even these little actions can create large changes. The second paragraph then addresses my own thoughts on this issue. So I wrote, protecting the environment is a global issue in our society. I personally think that environmental responsibility is a contemporary problem and something that needs to be addressed. And then I go on to say, I agree with the message communicated through Rack's mural. It is every person's responsibility to be environmentally aware. I, like Rack, also believe that small actions, such as recycling, can create a large-scale impact. So in this case, I'm not taking Rack's example of watering a plant, but I'm using my own example of something small I do in my personal life to be environmentally responsible. But then I consider parts of this issue that RAC has not addressed. So I write, however, environmental responsibility is a complex and worldwide challenge. It is also important for national governments to use public funds and create laws to protect natural parks and limit pollution. While RAC successfully brings attention to this issue, she does not address all of its complexities. So here I'm showing the limitations of her perspective, right? She is only able to show one perspective and is addressing small changes that everyone can do to be environmentally responsible. However, she might be overlooking these large national policies that also have to be implemented. Now let's look at how your assignment will be graded. So this assignment will be out of 20 points and will consist of 5% of your grade. You will be able to get a total of 4 points each for 5 different sections. And those sections are explanation of the issue, the evidence that you provide, influence of context and assumptions, the student's position, conclusions, and related outcomes. So what do these mean? Explanation of the issue. So here the issue or the problem is clearly stated and then described. I want you to define your terms. So in the second sentence of my response, I defined what environmental responsibility means. Then the next part is evidence. So what information is presented in the artwork that leads you to believe that this artist is discussing this particular issue? In my case, it was a large, a monumentally rendered child who is watering a plant, and it appears that a child is taking a small action to take care of the environment. And that is the evidence that drew me to conclude that this artwork is about environmental responsibility. The influence of context and assumptions. So analyze your own assumptions about this issue and then try to understand the perspective from which the artist is coming from. In this case, I looked into the artist's background and found that she grew up in Poland. I looked into the young girl's attire and found that it's traditional Polish clothing from the 19th century. And also the location of the work is in a town in Poland. So all of these led me to conclude that she is approaching this issue from her own cultural perspective. Then look at your own position. So what do you think about this issue? Do you think that this is a problem in everyday society? Why or why not? And finally, what conclusions can you reach? So evaluate how this artist has approached this issue, what they could have done better, whether you agree with it, or whether, it could have been improved upon. All right, good luck, and I'm sure you will all do a great job in your critical thinking assignment.